This reading will be from a reflection of the history of Waynesboro, Pennsylvania and Vicinity, Volume 2, compiled by Mr. Carl Besore and Mr. Robert Ringer. When the Cumberland Valley Railroad night trains were inaugurated on the Waynesboro branch, the first one on November the 8th of 1909 was short of disaster. As the train entered the yard, engineer S.D. Young at the throttle of engine 39 blew the long whistle for the station. All of a sudden, the left-hand arch pipe in the firebox burst. It enveloped the entire train in steam and sparks from the firebox. Mr. Young, worried about the safety of the passengers, climbed through the front window of the cab, making his way over the running board to the pilot. Holding to a rod with one hand, he leaned over the side of the engine and he opened an angle cock which applied the brakes. The speed of the train was such that it wasn't going to stop at the station. At about 175 feet north of the station, he was thrown to the ground. Everyone standing at the station realized, as did Mr. Young, that the train was on the track that ended on the north side of Main Street. The train plowed across the asphalt pavement at the end of the tracks, hit the hard paving of the street, leaped over the C.G.&W. Street railway tracks, and it dug into the macadam before jumping a stone crossing block in the middle of the track built across the street to gain access to the Geyser Station at 6th Street and those factories in the vicinity. It jumped the west rail of that track, continuing on the ties until it came to a stop. The engine and one coach were south of Main Street, while the rear coach was setting across the street at a right angle. Mr. Young, the engineer, was found walking dazed toward the station, blood oozing from his face and hands. They were black from the cinders along the track that had cut them open when he dropped off the engine. The left side of his face was bruised and it was lacerated. His left ear partly torn loose when he struck the ground, and his right cheek steam burned. When taken to the station, he asked, "Was anyone hurt?" Treated by 3 doctors, he remained in the Thomas West home all night, returned to Chambersburg on the 8:40 a.m. train. C.H. Hambright, the fireman, had remained atop the tender until the train stopped. He had several steam burns on his face and on his neck. H.G. Hackman, the station agent, had notified Chambersburg of the mishap. 20 minutes later, a wrecked train was on its way to Waynesboro, arriving around 11 p.m. With the runaway train uncoupled, each unit was pulled back onto the tracks that it had left. At 2:20 a.m., the made-up train left for Chambersburg, taking those who had boarded at Quincy some hours earlier for their first round-trip night ride and back to their homes. The wreck delayed several streetcars, but the 10:45 p.m. from Shady Grove was not delayed by the cleanup operations. On the evening in early March of 1918, Campbell McKelvey, employed by the C.G.&W. Street Railway, was in a pit. He was inspecting the running gear on one of the shop cars that had made a trip up the mountain earlier that evening. His flashlight had spotted a possum crouched on top of one of the trucks. He summons Archie Fox and Mr. Potter, closed the shed door, and they began the search. Just when they thought they had had it cornered, it broke through them and it climbed to the rafters. Mr. Potter then blinded the animal with a car headlight, after which it was caught. There had been a storm on the mountain that night, and it was thought that the animal had sought shelter under the car and was probably asleep when the car came down the mountain. There was a possum roast at Mr. Potter's home on East Main Street the following day. One Saturday morning in early February of 1922, Magistrate W.A. Culler was late getting to work. He was always noted for being on time, and while he had often ordered other men to be locked up, he had never thought that it would happen to him. It seems as though while he was cleaning his chicken coop, while doing so, his wife came to get a chicken to kill, and when she left the chicken house, she closed and bolted the door. When he found himself locked inside, he shouted several times, but no one ever came. He found a wire, and after many stretches, he managed to throw the bolt and get out of the chicken house. Those who conducted business with him that morning noticed that he was not in a very good mood.